Hello and welcome to a video on Final Fantasy XIV, and if you should try it, especially if you are a World of Warcraft player. Final Fantasy XIV is exploding right now, and you are probably wondering if you should try it, and even if you should just try it while waiting for 9.0, or if you're not a WoW player and are just seeing that this Final Fantasy game is exploding and you want to see what it is. And for me, the short answer is yes, you should try it. There's a great free trial. It gives the base game ARR and the first expansion for free, and that is a lot. It's easily over 100 hours of game time. But before we go into the meat and potatoes of this video and more of the new player experience guide, I want to explain why I think you should try 14 and why I think you should especially try 14 as a World of Warcraft player. And the reason is simple. Blizzard has gone stagnant. They have been comfortably sitting on the top spot for almost 2 decades now, and they are getting stagnant, and it can also be applied to their other games. They haven't really tried to innovate in their games for a long time now, and Blizzard needs to wake up. They need to realize that they can't just lean back and have all the players anymore, and the best way to make them realize that is to go somewhere else, to try something else, to tell them that their game isn't the best thing on the market anymore. And that's the positive spin on it. The negative spin is that Blizzard is dying. And while it is clear that there's great people working for Blizzard on every level, they continue to release and patch games that don't go exactly well. And it's systemic in Blizzard, and that is one reason why I believe Blizzard is dying. They have so many systemic issues, and that's probably a management issue or a bureaucracy issue or something, but there's certainly issues there. So Blizzard either needs to realize that they are dying and really reevaluate their whole structure, or they will die. Blizzard will die in time if they do not realize this. And that also means that World of Warcraft will die if they do not realize that. And in the end, especially MMOs need to at least have a consistent player base, or a growing one, for it to stay good, because else they will lose the money, they will lose the incentives to keep building. And World of Warcraft is just not following that trend anymore. They are falling in players and player numbers. And yes, you can say it's the 9.1 delay that is causing this issue, but we have seen this happening for a while, and I don't think they will be better. I think that unless players go away from World of Warcraft, that World of Warcraft will get worse and worse. So if you're a World of Warcraft player, I actually recommend trying out 14, if nothing else, just to pressure Blizzard to make them see that they are in a problem spot right now. So that was my arguments on why you should try Final Fantasy XIV, especially as a World of Warcraft player. So let's get on the new player guide. Let's just get some definitions out of the way if you're completely new. When you start the game, you will be playing a Realm Reborn 2.0. The legacy version or 1.0 was bad. It was really bad. it was almost killing the Final Fantasy franchise bad. So what happened was Square Enix, they killed the game and relaunched it as 2.0, A Realm Reborn. So the base game you're playing, that is ARR from 2.0, and that's level 1 until 2.55, which ends with a major cutscene. And trust me, you will know when you have seen this. When you are done with that, you enter 3.0 Heaven's Sword, and that will last until 3.55. And if you're playing the free trial, this is where your progress will stop. When you're done with 3.55, you can no longer progress the story. And your level cap is 60. Now, if you're used to World of Warcraft or other MMOs, probably, you might be a bit confused why I am really mentioning this, because you will be used to leveling or getting through the expansions through leveling. That is not the case in Final Fantasy XIV. You progress through the game by doing the main scenario quest, or the MSQ as most people call it. This basically means that the game is a narratively driven game rather than a level or grind driven game. Now, if you're used to World of Warcraft, you might have a fear of missing out on the end game content. As in World of Warcraft, the end game content pretty much dies when a new expansion is released, and sometimes it even dies when a new patch is released. That is not something you need to worry about in Final Fantasy XIV. All the content is designed to be more or less evergreen. This means that raids, dungeons, and side content always have some relevancy to the endgame player. One way this is implemented is by a daily roulette, where you get some endgame resources by queuing up for this roulette, and you're going to backfill any kind of specific content. You can queue up for a raid roulette, a trial roulette, a dungeon roulette, and a few others. And you're backfilling for other players who are queuing into specific trials or dungeons or raids. And that more or less keeps everything alive. So there's really no rush to get to the end game, because you will experience it eventually. It will stay relevant for you, so do not worry about the fear of missing out. Now, the MSQ will require you to do dungeons and trials, and just so you know, trials are 8-man fights against a single boss. That, along with the experience you get from the MSQ quests, will keep you at the right level for the MSQ. It is level restricted, but you do not have to worry about that unless you are leveling on multiple jobs. And if you're starting on a preferred server, you get an experience boost until level 70, and you will definitely be over leveled. Now, the MSQ, along with the dungeons and trials, is the only mandatory content in the game. The rest of the game is something you can do at your own pace. However, there is class and job quests, which, while not strictly mandatory, should be done whenever possible. There's a banner in the top left of your screen. At default, this banner shows the next MSQ quests. Click on it and you will see where you have to go. And just below that banner, you will see your job quest, or your class quest. Now then, there's also some important side quests. These quests are represented by a quest icon with a blue background and a plus symbol. These unlock additional features, from extra jobs for your character, to locks such as sightseeing or hunting locks, or optional dungeons, raids, or trials. These should be done at your own pace. You should do them, and it is highly recommended you pick them up whenever you see them, but you do not need to complete them as soon as you get them. And that is actually more or less my recommendations for getting you started. I will, however, say, if you have any questions about the game, just ask on this channel, in-game, or on forums. This community is genuinely so welcoming that we have had controversies about being too welcoming. And I'm not joking. If you are a World of Warcraft player who have heard the Final Fantasy XIV community is aggressive towards World of Warcraft, and you are afraid of that, I want to say that's a big misunderstanding happening here, because my guesstimate is that at least 50% of the Final Fantasy XIV players are World of Warcraft refugees. We have been there. We can even compare the game to World of Warcraft if you want to get explanations in terms you understand, because we come from the same reference frame. My final little warning is players who expect another World of Warcraft will be disappointed. While the games do share a lot of things, they are not the same game. And this is actually why Final Fantasy XIV is so loved by the players, because they're not trying to mimic World of Warcraft, but they are doing their own thing with the formula. Story skipping is something some people talk about, and playing the game as if it is World of Warcraft is considered bad. And if you do skip the story, and if you then bash the story, be prepared, you will get backlash. If you play the story and you don't like it, fair enough, but do not skip it and then say it's a bad game. That will get the Final Fantasy XIV community mad, because the story is very important to the game. Which is also why story skipping is something that is really, really not recommended. It is something that essentially exists only for veteran players who have already experienced the story and are creating an alt on another server or on the same server. It is not something meant for new players. Please do not buy it if you are a new player. A Realm Reborn is really important. It sets up all the expansions and it sets up the story so you can understand what's going on. Do not skip it. With that said, I hope you enjoyed the video. Whether you're a World of Warcraft player, Final Fantasy XIV player, or just someone looking around. And with that, thanks for watching. See you next time.